right, let's get going. Good day, everybody. Hello. Welcome to this episode of ISSA Canada's Residential Cleaners Coffee Talk Forum. My name is Tanya Nowotny. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for ISSA Canada. And joining us today in this special episode is Mark Baker, who is one of the council members of ISSA Canada's Residential Cleaners Committee. Mark Baker is CEO of Motivated Maids, Inc. and President of Motivated Brands, Inc. In under 4 years, Mark went from a solo house cleaner in a small Canadian city to over 1.87 million in annualized residential sales and is now franchising across Canada. Mark will share his insight on reducing turnover by sharing personal experiences he has had on his business journey and what tactics he has implemented to be successful when it comes to manpower. So Mark, why do house cleaners turn over and why is labor so hard to find?
Tanya, you're supposed to say hello, Mark. It's good to see you first. I'm just saying.
No, I'm throwing it to you.
Great intro. Linda, Mindy, Chris, John, Maureen, and everyone else, thank you so much for jumping in. By all means, feel free to open up your camera so we can see you and you can see us. You certainly don't have to, but if you choose to make your camera go, that's totally cool. Say hi, Mindy. How are you? I did dress down today, everybody, because in Newfoundland we don't get 30-degree Celsius weather very often, and we did today. So yeah, so I decided not to dress up. Forgive me. Thank you so much for the excellent introduction, Tanya. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm just going to take a second just to, again, say who I am. So I started off as a solo professional house cleaner in a small market, as mentioned, and built it up to a 7-figure company. And it wasn't without its trials and tribulations. And I learned a few things along the way. And what I want to do today is that I want to share with you some of the things that I learned with regards to turnover and how to reduce it. What I want to say first is that this is a bit of an interactive chat today. So by all means, if you have a question, type it in. We'll make sure to leave about 15 to 20 minutes at the end so we can interact and ask questions. Mm-hmm. But at any point while we're talking and you want to ask a question, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. And we can, let this conversation happen in an organic way. Mm-hmm. As well, Tanya, as the moderator or, the host, if you feel you want to ask something to get more clarity or whatever, by all means, interject, if that works for everybody.
I do that well.
Yes, you are very good at that. No, you do a good job of keeping everything running extremely well. So the first thing I want to talk about is turnover and why turnover is the root of all evil. Now, if I was to ask you, what are the reasons that your company or a cleaning company what if I asked were the main issues customers have with residential cleaning companies? What are the main issues you have as a residential cleaning company owner? Could I ask a few of you or all of you to type in what you think some of the problems are? And I'm just curious, and Tanya can have a look.
Yep.
Like, for example, is it poor quality work? Is it lack of availability? Is it sending people to the homes that are brand new, different people every time? What are you finding are the issues that are the consumers have with your services? And I'll give you just a couple of seconds here if we could get at least 1 or 2 people type in a few things in the chat.
Poor training.
100%. Go with see if we can get one more. Consistency and availability. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Alyssa. Competition for other jobs that are more desirable. 100%, Mindy. All right, so we'll go with those couple now. So what I want to present is that all of the challenges that a consumer has, whether it's poor quality work, whether it's training, and I'll get into how that's related, whether it is the quality, the character, the quality of the people coming into their homes, whatever that might be, okay, it ultimately all stems from turnover. So I say turnover is the root of all evil. Because, well, think about it. If you're turning over your providers frequently, well, you built up a book of business, right? So you have this book of business going, and you have this client base. And then all of a sudden, well, you're down 3 providers. Or you have providers. So what happens when you're down 3 providers and they wash out? Well, now you have these customers. So you're scrambling to get the work done for these customers. Now, at the same time, and I'll give you an example. I remember having 110 residential cleans in this small city in one day, and having a third of our people call in sick, and the other 1/3 of them not have an aptitude for what they're doing. I mean, it wasn't fun at all, right? And it was chaos, is what it was. It was chaos. Every day was chaos. Every day was anxiety. I'd wake up with anxiety. I'd go to bed with anxiety, and it wasn't good. And I had, a staff of 6 here assisting me. So what happens is that when you turn over, it forces you to, one, start canceling customers. It forces you to give customers platitudes, excuses. It forces you to drop your level of professionalism. You start giving them reasons, like, well, Mary is sick today. But then it's a, well, Mary is got a car issue. So we're going to send Sally. Oh, well, Sally couldn't make it because, like, these are things you don't even discuss with a customer. Then, of course, you're forced then to get desperate and try to, accept people in your organization that aren't a good fit. You don't terminate people or let people go that don't have an aptitude for it, that aren't performing. And that's not just a disservice to your customers and to your business. It's a disservice to those people, because they need to go out and find things that suit them better. It doesn't do them any favors if you have them there when it's definitely not meant to work out. So the quality of the clean. Well, how do you focus on building a great training program and build a collective knowledge, right? When you can't keep people there long enough to train them? You're going through excessive financial burdens because it costs money to train people. Yeah. People don't make you money right away, right? They cost you money. You're turning them over. And also you're dealing with the fallout or the chaos, which is taking up your mental resources, your physical human resources, and maybe if you've grown and have staff, the physical and human resources and mental resources of your staff, all just to deal with the fallout of turnover. So right now, with the economy being the way it is, a lot of people in the professional house cleaning groups you see, and the biggest ones would be Cleaning Business World. Angela Brown's got a great group with over 15,000 people in it. You're going to see this constant, there's a worker shortage, right? There's a worker shortage. And what I want to say to you is that that's just a bad attitude. There isn't a worker shortage at all. Yes, there's going to be a set number of providers available who are going to come and work with house cleaning companies, okay? Now, there's going to be a certain amount of those providers that are dependable, are conscientious, and conscientiousness is the #1 predictor of success as far as the big 5 personality traits go. Conscientiousness is the best way to predict whether or not someone's going to be successful in their future, is whether or not they're conscientious. So people that are dependable, people that are conscientious, these types of people who are accountable, those people are going to gravitate towards the companies that best fulfill their needs. Just like when you purchase something as a consumer yourself, whether you're going to McDonald's or Wendy's, or maybe you're going to Five Guys, which is twice as expensive as McDonald's. When you purchase a vehicle, when you purchase a home, you're looking at what your needs and wants are, and you're making the right choice for you that's going to, suit your life and your situation the best. Well, providers are no different. So think about it this way. If there's 100,000 cleaning jobs to be done, and you need 10,000 providers to do those cleaning jobs, but there's only 8,000 available. Okay, so if your company is on the bottom choice of the providers, well, you're going to always be in that never-ending time, the never-ending loop, right? The Groundhog Day of dealing with the chaos, turning people over. Like that's what you're going to live, right? Now, of the 8,000 that are left, well, there's going to be the top 20% that you want to choose your company, right? And then you don't have to live that life because you don't have turnover. Turnover isn't a thing for you. Then there's going to be people that are kind of average in the middle, and you can do okay with them if you have great systems and procedures. And then there's going to be people at the bottom, and that's not who you want. And I can tell you, like, for example, our turnover was in the hundreds of percent. Now, keep in mind, McDonald's turnover is in the hundreds of percent. They have about a 300% turnover. And that's the most successful restaurant in the history of the human existence. But they have the ability to attract, train, plug them into the system, get output, lose them, plug them back in. But it's a very different because it's a controlled environment inside a restaurant where you can have more consistent supervisors and more consistent managers and things like that. You have a franchisee who's on site when necessary. Our providers are going out into the field, and that makes it much, much more difficult, okay, to get them to perform well with turnover. So you want to reduce turnover is the big thing. Now, since we shut down for the pandemic, and I took that opportunity to address some different issues, things that I was always working on, but of course we were just so busy sometimes when the operational clogs are turning. Sometimes it's hard to work on the business because you're still plugged into the business in some way. So the pandemic for us was a godsend because I was able to step out and do some things. And last June, I beta tested a business model because I was looking to franchise it. And our turnover has been 8%. So that's our current turnover. So I can't even begin to tell you how that feels. I mean, 50% of all calls in the first couple of years were complaints to do with quality, or outbound calls I remember being up at 2:00 in the morning over the phone and doing screen shares with managers, trying to manipulate schedules to make things work. I mean, it was a nightmare. It was a chaos. It's like crickets around here now. we don't get those calls.
But that's a good thing.
Yes, yeah, it's a great thing. And what it does is that it frees us up to start building world-class training programs, because we not only know that our providers are going to do great work, but we also know that there's like a 99% chance they're going to be at work, right? Because like the whole calling in sick thing is just virtually doesn't exist with us. And we also know that when someone is retained, they're most likely going to be with us. We just don't turn them over. So the next question is, well, why do house cleaners turn over? Right now, you can listen to the stinking thinking in the groups, and look, if you want to say, millennials today, they don't have the same work ethic, or well, really, what do you think that our baby boomer parents said about us? We were skaters and their hats were on backwards. My dad was like, why do people wear their hats backwards? What's wrong? Well, I don't know. Well, your dad probably said, why do you put Brill cream in your hair and slick it back? Right? And Michael will know what I'm talking about because he's, a couple of years older than you and me, Tanya. And so the thing is that everyone always likes to pretend that the last generation, the new generation sucks, but that's not true. And it doesn't matter. It's a bad attitude because we're all choosing from the same workforce. So stop focusing on, looking for others to support you and saying that people suck. The one person put in a group the other day, well, it doesn't matter how much you pay them. I mean, just good people don't exist. And it's like, well, first of all, it does matter how much you pay them. And secondly, there are plenty of great people. And in fact, if you can create a situation where you've built a culture within your business that people can see and a reputation for what it's like to work with you, you'll actually bring people into the market to work with you that wouldn't normally choose house cleaning as a career. Right? Because the perception of it's a transient business, it's an ease of entry business, anyone can do it. I jump in, I jump out, I flap back and forth. Well, understanding why they turn over. So if you were to type in right now, what are the reasons why people quit their jobs? You'll find out that one of the top things is lack of appreciation, not feeling valued, poor training. I mean, the list goes on, and how much you get paid is one of those, but it's never at the top of the list, right? Just like in any consumer when they purchase something, is price important? Yes. Is it the most important? It very, very rarely in any consumer purchase decision is price the number one factor. It's a top factor.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about why cleaners turn over, why do house cleaners turn over? Well, 67% of all people surveyed by credible surveys said that if they had a favorable and positive onboarding experience, they were more likely to stay with that company. So 66% of people who said they had a positive onboarding experience stayed with the company 3 years or more. Now, with today's world, with the SaaS software as a service, you can be a small solo startup operation and you can offer and present yourself with the same types of features that a massive company could only do, a decade ago. So we have a world-class training program that I think is the best house cleaning training program on planet Earth. And you know how I know it is? Well, I bought the HCT course and done it. I've done the Cleaning Pro course in ISSA. I bought Angela Brown's course, which is fantastic, and done all that. And I've done them all. And I built one that's better. But thanks to SaaS software, I was able to build that at a very, very low cost. So my point is that the different things that matter to professional house cleaners that cause them to turn over, you can fix. But if you take the attitude that, well, that's just how they are, well, why would you even be concerned? And if that is how they are, well, then you better learn how to get around how they are, or get out of business, right? Because, if business was easy, we'd all do it. So when you think about why they turn over, it's things like, for example, let's take a scenario. You got Tanya, you called our 800 or 888 number a while back trying to get a hold of me for something or other, and you didn't do my personal cell. Why don't you share with everyone what that experience was like for you?
Well, I had called you because we were having a conversation that had dropped off in the virtual space. So I called your 1-800 number, but no, it was an very pleasant answering service. So I did not leave a message. I just hung up and sent you an email. The next day, I got a call from your assistant, Shania, asking me if there's anything that she could help me with. And I just thought that was amazing. Like I didn't leave a reply. I didn't leave a message, nothing, but she called me back the next day. I thought that was fantastic.
And how did that make you feel just as a human being?
Important.
Sure. Well, you are important, by the way, FYI. And not just as the Director of Communications and Marketing for Worldwide Cleaning Industry Association in Canada, but just as a human being, you're pretty awesome. I can vouch for you.
Thank you.
But the thing is that, so like, let's think about what if a customer calls, okay, and that customer, leaves a voicemail and says, hi, the reason I'm calling is because I need to get my receipts from the last 2 cleans. I've deleted them out of my inbox and I actually need them because I actually get to claim that. I mean, they give a reason or they don't give a reason. And I was wondering if you could get those to me. Well, as a customer, I mean, you're going to jump on that. And if you're not going to jump on that and get to them quickly, then you got other bigger problems. And if your business is so chaotic that you can't get to it, right? Well, then you have systems issues that you need to address and build a system that actually can work, right? So we won't digress into that. The point is that you're going to jump and get that for that consumer. So for example, you didn't leave a voicemail. So your priority in the queue went down. That's why you got a call back from a support agent the next day. Versus if you had left a voicemail, then we know you would have got a call back. We have a 100% callback rate, and we know how long it takes in those metrics as well, thanks to software as a service, right? SaaS software we use. Now,
Mark, is that SAS?
SaaS. So SaaS is software as a service, right?
Okay.
So at one time you would have to purchase and develop large, expensive softwares for your accounting or for your call center or for your training. And now, of course, you can pay a monthly subscription and buy different varying packages that suit your needs until you get to enterprise level and develop your own or have them develop enterprise level stuff for you, right? And it's available in everything. whether it's a learning management software, whether it's call center software, whether it's, whatever the case might be, human resource, HRIS software. Now let's look at what if you get a call and a voicemail left from a former provider. And I'm going to say provider because you could have employees, you could have independent contractors, you could have whatever system. They do the service in the field. We like to call them providers. Now, so say a provider leaves a message and says, hi, this is so-and-so calling. I need to get a copy of my T4 or my T4A or whatever particular form from when I worked with you in 2016. Thank you so much. And they get off the phone. Now, maybe this provider actually was awful and was terminated and was absolutely problematic the entire time they worked with you. And in fact, intentionally double deposited a check and committed fraud against you that caused you great hardship. Right? And I use this example because it's happened to us. This is a real example. Well, what attitude are you going to take towards getting that for that provider? And that attitude that you take, okay, is going to dictate the culture of your business. So for us, well, that is a support ticket. That is a support request. And even though this person, we could have took the attitude, oh yeah, well, the hell if I'm getting that, or I already sent that to that person. And, I'm not an administration business. And, that person caused this hard. It's all irrelevant. The rules that you must play by and the rules that they must play by are different. Because a provider calls in sick, or whether it's our American friends call it call out, we call it call in here in Canada, they call it call out, right? Because that those Americans are so backwards. So, because the person called out, because the person done poor work, because the person didn't follow the rules, that doesn't give you the right to not follow your rules. You have to live by a different set of rules than they live by. So you need to accept that and know that. You have to operate at a high level at all times. For us, we were able to get that document for that provider, and we can put our hands on any document we need within our offices. We're all electronic now, but that was in 2016. We weren't, and we can put our hands on any piece of paper within like a minute. And if you can't put your hands on a piece of paper in your office within a minute, you need to take some organization and filing courses and get your house in order, right? Because that's chaos. Now, and then we reply, thank you so much. You'll see attaches the copy. And we get back to that person with the same urgency as we would as a paying customer, so to speak, because that person is a customer. Now, so what people have to realize that it's not about you. Okay, it's not about you. As business owners, yes, we take the risk. We're the one who've mortgaged our houses. We're the ones that have sacrificed time away from our beloved families. We're the ones I became obese, right? I came to like 230 pounds. I'm a 165 pounder. You give up a lot, my health, right? So we sometimes tend to think that it's about us, but it's not about us. It's about them. Just like for the consumer, it's about them. It's not about us. Now, that doesn't mean you do absolutely anything with consumer ash. You have to find your niche. You have to clearly define what it is that you offer to people. And, McDonald's offers you the combo, right? You got some customization, but in general, you're picking the combo. And like with us, when you purchase cleaning, like we offer 3 packages. We don't have customization. It's not what we do. Someone else may do that. We don't, right? Not saying you have to bend over backwards that way. You offer what you offer. You don't offer what you don't offer. You find your business model that works. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's about the customer. So here's what I want to do. Is I want to present the idea of who your customer is. But before I do that, I want to say that here's the thing. Supply and demand is not in your favor in the Western world where we are. Okay, that means that there's going to be, if a city you live in needs 1,000 hairdressers, and there's only 6 hairdressers in the city, those 6 hairdressers are going to be filthy rich, right? If your city needs 1,000 hairdressers and there's 25,000 available, There's going to be a couple that are still going to do well, and the rest are going to get paid nothing. Supply and demand dictates prices, okay? And now within supply and demand, there's different things. There's inelastic and elastic services, and there's, different, it's a bit more complex than that. There's an oversimplified version, but in general. Now, when it comes to the workforce, supply and demand, everyone say, oh, the supply is really bad. There's no one available. There's a worker. Listen, my father had a company with 400 employees. He'd done $8 million a year in business here in little old Newfoundland, Labrador. And you know something? He was singing the same song and dance. That's the world we live in, and it always has been and always will be.
Yeah.
So stop focusing on it. There is lots of people available, actually, lots of great people available. They just don't want to work with you. Sorry. Well, how do you fix that so they want to work with you? And you can't just pay them all the money, but you do have to remunerate them better. There's no doubt about that. So when you realize that you work for them and they don't work for you, just like you work for the consumer, then there's a mental shift and you start to see things differently and you start to build things differently. You start to behave differently. You start to talk differently. I don't know if you've noticed, but I at no point said to people who work for me. When I go to an international conference and it's like, how many people you got working for you? I cringe, man. I cringe. I was like, nobody works for me, man. We like, how many people do I work for? Do you want to know? I have a lot of people I work for. My responsibility, right, is to provide the providers with a good, honest living, right? I provide them with, I can tell you because we have it written down. Look, we have it right here. We motivate Canadians to write their own success stories by providing them with the opportunity to love what they do, earn a good living, and achieve financial self-reliance. We know exactly what it is that we offer. Now, if I do that correctly, right? Like you coach softball, like you love softball, right? You played it, you coached it, you're coaching 3 teams this year, which I think you're a lunatic, by the way. But I guess you were pretty hard up for softball last summer, so you got to get your fix on.
I've got time to make up. Yes.
Yeah. But the thing is that like when your team wins, well, yes, you feel a deep sense of satisfaction that you were able to assist them in that. But when your team wins, if you're a good coach, they did that, not you. They played the game. You don't play the game for them. They won the tournament. They won the league. They won the game. But when your team loses, correct me if I'm wrong, that's on me as the coach, isn't it?
Always. Yep.
Yeah. You failed them, didn't you? So it is when you own a house. Well, that's the attitude that I take.
Yeah.
And look, the interesting thing is that if you're more interested in how you can serve, and this isn't some pie in the sky religious type attitude. In fact, I'm an atheist, so there's nothing religious about it, but it does coincide with a lot of religious views. So people who aren't atheists and are religious, like think about it in that manner. If I'm here to serve others, the providers, and I'm not concerned with myself, it just so happens that abundance will come to me anyway. Interestingly, the people that are less concerned with themselves probably end up doing the best because they have no turnover. Now, then you can start adding to your team. Well, now you can grow, can't you? Getting customers is the easy part. Having providers is the hard part. So if you do it correctly and you serve people well and you provide them what you're supposed to provide them with, I like to say, you've heard me say this before, Tanya, I have a toddler, Scarlett May Baker, the love of my life, right? I have adult children of 23 identical twins, and she was the most pleasant, unexpected, but pleasant surprise. And we're Facebook friends, so Tanya sees me post her every single day, 10 times a day. But I mean, if my wife was to call and say, hey, Mark, can you pick up some milk on the way home from work? I have the money in my account to get milk for baby Scarlett, right? Scarlett's in soccer, so I'll leave work early today and get her for soccer, which she's so adorable on the soccer field, right? And, she's going swimming on Sunday. And, all of these things that I have come from the providers. They give that to me. I don't give it to them. I work for them, right? Mm-hmm. And if I do it correctly, I get to keep a little bit of the money too. Now, if you look at most businesses, you look at a McDonald's, you look at, the Best Buy, you look at all these big businesses, most businesses operate and they got a 10%, gross profit before interest and taxes. Like literally, like if you get a 10% gross profit on a business, man, you're doing well. So stop thinking that if you bill out $100, that 50 of that should be yours. Well, no, it shouldn't. If you can get $10 left over, that's free and clear earnings for your company, then you're doing good, man. Because that's what most companies get. So like people sometimes are not understanding the real dynamic of how much money you should earn. And they're trying to take too much, right? So understand now, so what we do is we take it to a next level. So we have what's called a customer, okay? And we define it. And to us, a customer is the consumer. Everyone gets the word consumer, those who consume the services. Mm-hmm. But a customer is also the provider of the services. So they are our customers. And that's why we never say work for us, because they don't work for us. They work with us. And that's not a platitude, man. That's how we think. And that's how I think. And that's how everyone else thinks, because everyone's going to toe the party line and work to please the leader. Right. And even if the people that are working here, because I have a team in another country, even if they're removed from me 4 times removed, that attitude of what matters to me will trickle down. Right. And so the thing is that understand that the provider is your customer, because when you do, you will start to do things differently. Okay. Now, once you know that your provider is a customer and you have that point of view, because if you don't have that point of view, good luck. Just good luck. Like you'll be complaining about them in 10 years. Well, we're all rich, right? Now, then you got to map out their experience. And that's really, really important. So, if you are or want to be a credible business, you need to map out the consumer experience. And you map out every single experience from the time they call you. Tanya, how did I know that we were going to return your call? Because we know exactly we know the experience when someone calls. Yeah. So think about when someone applies with you. Okay, when they apply with you, like maybe you use Indeed. And if you're a Canadian, well, listen, you either market and advertise on Indeed or you don't get people for the most part. Indeed's got a lockdown on the marketplace, right? So say you're advertising on Indeed. Okay, so say you get 100 people apply. Right. Well, last time we ran an ad, we had 7,000, by the way, across Canada. But that's for another topic. OK, yeah. Let's assume you get people apply. Well, do you respond to 100% of the people? Or do you take the attitude with people that, will reply to those we're interested in? What a lazy way out, man. What a lazy way. So what are you saying to those people you're not interested in? What are you saying about your brand? You may not be interested in them today, but you may be very interested in them another day. Or maybe you'll change your metrics of what you're looking for. Your brand values will change, and that person that wasn't attractive to you before is now attractive to you. And hell, supply and demand isn't even in your favor, for God's sakes. Who are you to turn people down? You're desperate. So the reality is that, you respond to people within a business day. And you let them know that you respond to them within a business day. So that's what I call a touch point, right? Well, next is, how do you respond? How do you word what you respond to them, right? Well, how about with honesty? Thank you so much for applying. We are not interested because, or thank you for applying. Like, regardless, you respond to them. Now, so they go over to your website and they go into your HRIS platform. Whether it's Bamboo HR, whether it's Collage out of Montreal, whether it's Fresh Team, or whatever you're using for people to apply online. And there's lots of great things you can get that are, and we'll be, the ISSA Canada, Mike Nasco as the executive director, and Tanya as the director of marketing communications, myself, Judith Varag, Patrick Martel, and some other people on the residential cleaners committee. We are bringing you, as members of ISSA Canada, we are bringing you some amazing discounts on some amazing services. Right now, you join ISSA, you can get access to I can do background checks in 15 minutes for dirt cheap, online, comes right into a dashboard, and I know the result immediately. It's remarkable. And that's a deal. That's something that I brought to ISSA, and then Tanya and Mike worked hard in the legal team to make it happen. And we have one after the another that we're bringing to ISSA in the next coming weeks and months. And we're going to be excited to see what's happening for you with that. And some of these things that I'm talking about, like online training platforms at reasonable prices, call center software, all of these things we will eventually be bringing to you as members, because the high tide raises all the ships, right? So I'm not going to hoard that knowledge to myself. I'm going to share it with you, because the whole industry grows and gets better, right? And I also have a silver bullet, me, right? So with that said, but jokes aside on that, so mapping out that clean air experience, right? So then it's like, okay, well, they go to your website and they apply. Okay, well, what's that experience like for them? And if you map out, the onboarding process, and the onboarding process, by the way, isn't up until they get hired. The onboarding process, as far as I'm concerned, is 2 years long. And then they move into maintenance process. So we have our touch points for 2 full years mapped out with our people. And we have it automated so we don't forget. It's on point, man. It's on point. Like, for example, like we return 100% of our providers' calls when they're in the field. We have brand values. Our brand values are in writing, and one is honesty. Another one is fairness. And we've got them listed out in writing, and we've thought about them. And I'm not talking like the Exxon Valdez, that spilt all the oil up in Alaska, northern BC, and had on the wall all of the values guiding principles, and then proceeded to, try to cover it up. I'm talking about guiding principles that you actually follow. And that's really important, because if you have those guiding principles, then making decisions becomes easier, because you don't have to second guess. So when you get into a situation, it's like, well, I don't have to think about how I'm going to handle this. I know how I'm going to handle it, because this is the principle. Honesty, I'm going to tell the truth. Accountability, I'm going to take ownership for the results of my inaction or action. That's really helpful. Now, so if you had a set of guiding brand values, and you've mapped out the entire experience for a provider, you can create a better experience. Now, don't get me wrong, we have standards, and we very explicitly express those standards to people. And when they don't meet them, they're not with us anymore. Like, it's very simple. Like, we don't, we had to unfortunately let a few people go, 2 people from the old days. And we had to let them go. And this was recently, right? And when the person who let them go, I keep the metrics of who comes and goes and stuff. And I saw 2 people left, and I checked in and said, hey, what's happening with that? And when I did, she's like, well, they don't have the same values as us, because they came in before. Versus the people who come in now, they already have conscientiousness, because, they go through so many touch points before they even get hired. They already share a lot of our values anyway, and then we educate them on our values. And then when they don't meet our values, we let them know right away, and they have an opportunity to correct that, right? Like punctuality is a value. Yeah. And we don't just consider punctuality as being earlier on time. We consider punctuality in writing. I mean, I'll read to you what we call punctuality. I'll actually read it to you. Will I pull it up? Yes, I will. I have it right here on my desk. This is what punctuality means to us. Let me pull it up here. We're looking for just a moment.
So, Mark, when you talk about these touch points, and you say that it is an ongoing process for you, like, do you do this face to face, or is this a virtual thing, or is this part of your onboarding experience? Great point. And hold that thought. I'll read this, and then we'll address that, because that's going to tie into what I want to talk about next. And then I'm going to pull up, and then we're going to hopefully take some questions from the group. But I want to read out what it is for us. So everyone in our organization, from our franchisees to the president, is accountable. Oh, actually, that's the wrong one. Let's go to punctuality. Here we go. Motivated Brands Inc. values punctuality and sees it as a characteristic of long-term success. To us, punctuality is more than ensuring that one is on time or early for every commitment. It means never being quick to reschedule a commitment, and looking to do so as an absolute last resort to be done very rarely, and only in truly extenuating
and uncontrollable circumstances. And even then, only after every other alternative has been exhausted. Now, that's our brand value. Punctuality is important to us, and we attract people who have it important to them too, and we teach our values too. Like Mom used to say, you can't put lipstick on a pig, right? But you know what you can do is the ugly duckling eventually turns into a swan. So you want to attract people who have the capacity and aptitude to become the swan, and then you can help them grow and become even more of a swan. My personal assistant, Shania, who manages my personal affairs, my business affairs, Shania, well, she's a swan. She walked in the front door as a swan. But let me tell you something, she was conscientious, but now she's conscientious at a level she couldn't even understand before. She's accountable at a level she couldn't even understand before. I've helped to groom her and turn her into the very, very strong and better version of herself. But I certainly, as Mom said, can't put lipstick on a pig. If she's not conscientious and that's not one of her big 5 personality traits, I'm certainly not going to make her conscientious. I can talk till the cows come home. But what I can do is I can bring that out in someone. I can bring it to fruition in someone. Now, so all of these different touch points that you have with somebody, okay, when you map out their entire experience with you, well, a lot of those are automatic. For example, we have so many touch points that are so seamless and easy when you're even getting to the point where you're hired, that if we have 7,000 applicants, we'll be down to 1,000 before they even get to the point where we might hire them. And then, we might end up with 70 people that we onboard. And then during the onboarding process and they go through the training process, we'll drop out another 30 of them. And what's left standing might be 10 people, but those 10 people have an aptitude. They have the brand values that we value. We just don't have the cast because. So it's like, we have a system that funnels large amounts of people in, and then we let them wash themselves out. But every touch point that we have with them speaks to who we are, what you can expect. It's about the fear of the unknown. I mean, listen, my wife, as you know, Tanya, she unfortunately has a heart disease. We just discovered she almost lost her life a few months ago. It was really, really bad. It's day by day now as it is. She's a young woman. She just turned 40. I'm an old timer at 50, but it's bad, right? And we're asking questions of the medical professionals that we're dealing with, right? And we're even considering moving up to Ottawa to be next to the Heart Institute there because it's real top notch, right? Maybe go to the lower basin in Ontario there. And the thing is that it's the fear of the unknown. We want to know she wants to know what her life is going to look like. Am I going to be alive in 10 years for Scarlett? If I am, what's my life going to look like? There's just these unknown questions. And that permeates human existence. So a provider wants to know before they pull the trigger with you what it's going to feel and look and taste like to work with you. So you have to be able to get across your brand identity, right? Well, so if you're going to articulate to somebody, whether that's in writing with job ads or whether that's in poster form with your visual identity, whether that's your topography on your website or whether it's your color scheme, well, how do you articulate to a provider what the future might look like if they come on board with you if you don't even know who you are? So you have to first find out who you are. Like, what do we do? How do we do it? Who do we do it for? And I'm going to read out to you what it is that we do. And then we're going to finish off with talking about the devil being in the details. So, for example, we motivate, we'll look at the customer side. So we have a mission. Our mission statement is to give service providers across various industries the ability to earn a good, honest living through our unique nano franchise business model, while providing consumers with dependable, quality, and guarantee-backed services. That's it. So everyone in the organization knows why we're here. Well, what's our vision? Well, we will be Canada's largest franchisor, and currently that's Tim Hortons, so we'll be larger than Tim Hortons as far as units. We'll be Canada's largest franchisor with nano-franchising, redistributing wealth, and raising the socioeconomic status of the service industry working class, plus our service brands will be the trusted first choice of consumers. Now that's an internal document, so we know what we are. But let's say, for example, the providers, when we're talking to providers and we say, here's what to expect from us. Well, we motivate Canadians to write their own success stories by providing them with the opportunity to love what they do, earn a good living, and achieve financial self-reliance through nano franchise ownership. But we break it down then. Motivated purpose. Be your own boss. Love what you do and enthusiastically look forward to going to work. Let's talk about that. Nobody talks about that. I love going to work every day. In the early years, it was chaos, but I knew I was doing it for myself. I was the boss, and I was creating a life for my family, economic self-reliance, and maybe build wealth. And, if, heaven forbid, if I was to pass unexpectedly and early, that the people I love would be cared for, right? So, but I look forward to going every day, and I get up, start work 4 o'clock every day, 4 a.m. Happily, by the way. I mean, some days when I get off work, it's like, oh, it's over. Not that I want to go see my family. I mean, I love my family, but I love going to work, man. I never worked a day in my life when you're working for yourself. So well, think about the providers, man. Do you want them to just be, hey, another day, another dollar, and you got to do what you got to do? The worst thing you can have is people that actually work for you that haven't quit yet. They've mentally checked out. So my point being is that people need to love what they do and look forward to going to do what they do each day. And it's up to you as a house cleaning company owner, whether you're solo with a helper, whether you're growing, whether you've got people on all corners of Canada, it's up to you to create a good experience. And the devil is in the details. So you might say, well, what's the silver bullet? And you see it. Everyone's like, tell me what it is I have to do to get more people and get them not to quit and get the good people and not the sucky people and all the things. It's like, oh yeah, here, just take this blue pill, man. Take this blue pill and it's all going to go away, right? It's like, no, it's dynamic, right? It's dynamic. It's not one thing. Think about our Tragically Hip, right? They have a song and Gordon Downey is singing in the center, but he goes off into a poem in the middle of it, like he was famous for doing, right? And he says, it's not one thing, it's not this or that, it's a collection of things. That's part of this song. I can't remember which song it is. Someone might remember it. But the thing is that I always think about that. Why is it that we have an 8% turnover ratio? It's not this or that. It's not one thing or another thing. It's a collection of things that work together dynamically, that are fueled by the fact that we understand who our customer is. Getting houses to clean is easy, smeezy, lemon squeezy. Getting people to clean the house. Now, if you can figure that out, well, hey, you can become a millionaire, can't you? Well, so that's where your attention needs to focus, is how do you map out the provider experience who you now view as a customer and help it suck less? Because let me tell you, I cleaned houses. A lot of cleaning business owners didn't clean houses, and I cleaned them. And I don't think I cleaned my first toilet till I was 30-something years old. And I remember my wife coming in and tearing apart my work in her ensuite in her house. And man, I remember quoting jobs 3 hours and bringing in a helper with me and being there on hour 18. Like, man, I've been through it all, right? So let me tell you something. It's a hard job, and I respect people who do it, right? I'm not above it, right? I'm not above it. And even though I don't do it anymore, and I haven't done it in a long time, I'm not above it. My mom did it, and my Aunt Ruth did it, and my Aunt Regie did it, and my Aunt Donnie did it. My beloved Aunt Jacqueline did it. And let me tell you something, man, it's honorable. It's a good, honest living, and there's nothing wrong with it. We need someone to manage the cleaning company, and we need someone to make the coffee, and we need someone to make the cup that the coffee goes in, and we need people to do the doctoring and the lawyering too, right? We need Mike Noskos to run the Cleaning Association in Canada. It takes us all to make this world go, and it's not what you do, it's how you do what you do that gets you the respect from the people in your community and around you, right? So the thing is that cleaning is hard. It's physically laborious. And it's not just like, oh, I'm going to go and clean and go home. It requires accountability. It requires dependability. It requires punctuality. It requires honesty. It requires skill. It's a skilled trade, right? And the list goes on. So if they're going to go and work for $12 an hour at McDonald's, and no disrespect to McDonald's, which is a great company. I just finished reading Ray Kroc's book called Grinding It Out. And find that on Audible, everybody. It's great. You can learn a lot from it, okay? Again, the most successful restaurant in the history of the world. Don't crap on them. Learn from them, right? Doesn't mean you had to have their business model, but you can still learn from them, right? There's things to be learned always. So the thing is that in a way, the job kind of sucks, man. I mean, I'm cleaning poop off toilets. That urinal kind of stinks, right? Now I'm being facetious, but my point being is that it's your job as a business owner to make it suck less. Now, you can't make it less physically hard. You can't take away their accountability. Now, we have systems and procedures that make things a lot easier, right, and technology. But here's my point. Make it suck less by understanding and mapping out their experience and streamline it and make it smooth. Like, we don't fall over backwards for people. We're not groveling to them. I'm the leader. Okay, and as the leader, the buck stops with me. And I'm like Chef Ramsay. I don't lower my standards for anyone. If that work is not on, you're not trying to meet the customer standards. That's the easy thing. You're trying to meet Mark Baker's standards. If you can even remotely come close to that, the customer's already taken care of. So, like, make no mistake here. I'm not saying that we're bending over backwards and whatnot. I'm simply saying that I work for the providers and they are my customers. And when I finally understood that, things changed in what I do and how I do it. And now we have no turnover. And because we have no turnover, I am, how many days? What's today? The 14th? I am 16 days away from launching a national franchising company across the entire country of a G7 nation, one of the second largest land masses on planet Earth as a country. And little old me, who, a few years back was cleaning toilets solo and didn't even have a license or a vehicle, I was bumming people to drive me to the houses so I could give the quote on the walkthrough. And then if I got the job, I'd pay them back for driving me there. And then when I showed up, they said, oh, because I had my Value Village suit on. They said, oh, you're the cleaner too? And I said, well, yes, I'm the cleaner too. Like, trust me, man, I come from nothing. But the point is, we've done something big. And the big shift was when we started viewing our providers as customers. And if you don't start doing it, you will get left behind.
Yeah. So
that is my opinion on it.
So with regards to these touch points, how do you do this? Do you do it virtually? Is it all in your onboarding, your educational training program?
Well, that's such a great question, right? And it's a collection of things all done right. Like, for example, we'll hold seminars, and Mike, get me back here every 2 weeks ongoing, just me. Okay. And Mike is the executive director. I'm speaking to him now. But no, really, because I can take people through, like, hey, here's an online training program. Here's a couple of platforms to choose from. Here's how to build content. Here's how to execute content remotely. Like, I can help everybody with those things. Right. But all that is a waste of time if you don't see the bigger picture, which is, what is your brand identity? Who are you? What do you do? How do you do it? Who do you do it for? Who are your customers, which are the consumer of your services and the provider of your services? And what I was trying to get across today is, don't ask me those questions. Ask me the questions about that. Because you can't have this without that. And I have friends in the business all over the world. I mean, one person in New York has a franchise, and I'll leave the franchise nameless, but I mean, they built themselves up to like 4 million in sales by year 2. That was like 2007 or something, and they haven't had a good year since. It was all chaos. And they finally went back and said, man, we gotta change all this business model. We gotta start over from scratch. Right? And they started rewriting their brand identity and whatever, and now they've rebuilt, and they've had their best year since 2007 during the pandemic. Now, it doesn't matter if you're small and you're a solo. You need to, check out Column 5 Media, okay? And type in brand identity guide, okay? And they'll give you a step-by-step guide. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, and it can be, paralysis by analysis. There's so much information, sometimes it can freeze you up, right? So if you go to Column 5 Media, you can find their guideline, and you can just do it yourself. And you can build your brand identity. And once you've built that brand identity, and you've considered your provider to be a customer, you just start thinking different, man. You start viewing them different. You start respecting them different. Like, you can pretend you respect the people who do the work and provide you with a living. You can pretend. But you know what? They see through it, man. They see through it. But when you really do care about, and that doesn't mean like spin the wheel of fortune and you're the top provider this week and you got the best reviews, so here's a $100 gift card for the cake. My God, how condescending is that? You don't have to do anything special. Like, I wish I could remember the name of the guy down in America. He's very kind of well known in ISSA down in the stateside on ARCSI. His name might come to me, but he owns several cleaning businesses that are all successful in different states, I might add. He's a nice person too. He teaches the HCT courses, actually, the new HCT courses, not Town and Country. It's someone different. But nonetheless, he says, stop looking for this special thing, key differentiator that you do different. In the house cleaning business, 90% of people do it poorly. You just got to block and tackle. Well, I had to look up what block and tackle meant, but that's a football thing. Of course, it's hockey up here, right? And down there, football is hockey. So block and tackle means that, listen, you don't have to have the star quarterback or whatever the case, whatever the hell that sport's about. You got to do the basics well. So, for example, return phone calls. Don't make promises you don't keep. Have their T4s ready on the day you're supposed. If they get paid Friday, if you say they get paid Friday at 2 o'clock, have their money Friday at 2 o'clock. Like, just do what the hell you're supposed to do and stop over promising and under promise, and then slowly build your business so you can actually deliver on greater promises. And then you really got some key differentiators to put out to the workforce, right? So, but in the meantime, you don't have to do anything special. You just have to do what you're supposed to do.
So in the interest of time, we've got 4 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Please include them in the chat.
Yeah,
now,
and if we don't get to them now, we'll send them out. We'll answer them and send them out. Like Tanya will send them to me, and I'll create a B-mail recording and let you know my thoughts.
Exactly. But do you look for people constantly, or not so much?
Yeah, well, absolutely. We're always like. That's a silly question.
Well, no, you said you got 7,000. You got 7,000.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. I'm busting you. Look, man, you're always looking for great people. You're always upgrading, right? You're always upgrading for great people. You know. So yeah, 100%. We're always looking. Now
I guess what I'm getting at for the group in general, like when they put out ads looking for people, like
that's a different seminar.
But I'm just curious to see if there is a response. Like, are people actually responding? I will give you a
okay, Tanya, I'll answer that question in 10 seconds.
Okay.
You don't know what to put into the advertisement that you put out if you have not mapped out the audience's experience. So how can you speak to an audience in an ad when you don't even hell know what their experience is or what you're going to offer them? So why do my ads get responded to? Where do you advertise it? How much do you spend? I mean, people get out with all this stuff and it's like, man, it doesn't matter. You're going to lose your money anyway because you don't even know what the hell you're saying. You don't even know who the hell you're speaking to. You need to understand your audience. Yeah. You need to put yourself in their shoes and say, would this be an offer that I can't refuse? Would this be a deal? Like the gentleman or lady said when they first comment, right? Like, you want to get them so they don't go somewhere else.
Yep.
Well, what the hell are there other options in the workplace for the particular socioeconomic group you're appealing to? Do you even understand what the class system is in Canada? Do you know there's such thing as a working poor? There's a destitute, there's working class, there's middle class. Do you know what middle class is in Canada? Like, you need to know this stuff, man.
Yeah.
And it can all be found because, of course, every bit of knowledge in the history of the world is now on Google. It's a wonderful thing. Look it up. Do your work. If it was easy, then instead of 90% of people, like 7% of Canadians are self-employed or something, that means 93% of Canadians would rather do anything but be an employer. Yeah. There's a reason for that. Right? So if it was easy, we'd all be doing it. So no one can answer that question, Tanya. The answer to that question is you need to listen to what I'm saying and understand and map out the user experience for your audience, which is the provider who is your customer. And if you do that, you'll know what to write to them. Mm-hmm. And then the little details. Yes, we respond very quickly to people. Why? Because they might take a different job. Yes, there are things that I can tell you, like specifically do this, don't do that. I can give you the tips and tricks, but that's all going to fall on deaf ears and be a waste if you don't get the bigger picture of who your customer actually is, who is the provider of the services, and you work for them, they don't work for you.
Well, that's our time. Mark, I thank you. I thank all of our guests who attended today, and I sure hope you can join us again in August when we host the next version of Coffee Talk Forum. Thank you, and have a great day, everybody. Thank you, Mark.
See you, everybody. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye. You're very welcome.